Hi guys, this is Faizan and welcome to today's session on Introduction to JavaScript. So before I start, can you guys quickly confirm in the chat if I'm audible or not? Is my slide deck visible to you guys? Yes, guys. Yes, yes, Preet. Today is the first session. Yes, this is the first session on JavaScript. So in the meanwhile, while we wait for others to join, let me give you a quick tour of how our academy looks like. So just type in Great Learning Academy in your browser. This is the first link that you will get. Just click on it and it will redirect you to this page, and this is our Great Learning Academy. In here you can see different options. Here you have the career path. If you're looking for a career path in IT and software, especially in so as a software developer domain, you can click on this. Okay, and if you're looking for a career transformation, you can click on this option and you will get different options that are there. If you're looking for explicitly in software development, we have PG courses available in on them as well. Okay, so these are all the paid courses. Now if you're looking for something which is absolutely free, right, we have courses available. If you're looking for IT and software, we have data structure algorithms in Java programming in there, Python, front end development, that is our HTML, CSS, blockchain. All of these courses are absolutely free. Okay, and if you're looking for explicitly in Hindi, or if you're looking for to learn in Hindi, we have courses available in Hindi as well. We have these courses in Hindi. You guys can check it once the session is over. Okay, so quickly, guys, confirm in the chat if I'm audible or not. Is everything okay? So, yeah, and we have courses available in React JS is there in Hindi. Okay, so all of these courses are absolutely free. And once you have enrolled, let's suppose this is JavaScript in Hindi. Once you have enrolled to this course and it is absolutely free, you will get the completion certificate once the session is over. And to get that completion certificate, which will look like something this, you need to answer 6 questions correctly out of 10. Okay, if you have done that, if you have answered 6 questions correctly, you will get this uh, certificate of completion, which you can easily add in your resumes, in your LinkedIn profiles. Okay, which will add value. And also if there are some projects in your course, you guys can add them as well. Okay, cool. Mm, okay, cool. So now let's get started with this session. In this session, we will be talking about these pointers. Okay. So first we'll talk about what is JavaScript, history of JavaScript, how it came into existence. Then we will talk about tools. Where should you write JavaScript, right? Or what are the different ways you can where you can write your JavaScript code. Then we will write our first Hello World program. Okay, obviously when we talk about any language, this is the first thing that you will do. You will start writing a program which is hello world, right? So that is what we are going to do. And then what we will do, we'll talk about comments, how to write these comments. Okay, then we will talk about variables, then we will talk about data types, then we'll talk about type coercion, which is very important. Okay, then we'll talk about JavaScript and what makes it different. I keep seeing this question again and again: what is Java, what is JavaScript, are these things related? We will talk about them in this JavaScript properties. Then we will talk about operators, and finally we will talk about conditional statements. Okay, so these are the things. Okay, is this in Hindi? No, this video is in English. Okay, please increase the volume, sir. Nasir, is it okay, just a minute. Yeah, is it good now? Okay. No, it is not in Hindi. Okay, cool. So now let's get started. So what is JavaScript? So JavaScript is the verb of a web page. Now, if you talk about HTML, this is suppose you can say that this is the noun of the page. Okay, and any actions that you perform on this page, that is the verb, is known as your JavaScript. Okay, and CSS obviously is for styling your sheet. Okay, so any action that you perform, for example, when you click on this, what should happen? When you click on that, what should happen? So all these actions, right? So all these actions that are there on your web page is known is your JavaScript. Okay, it is an object-oriented programming language which uses just-in-time compiler. Okay, what is this JIT? This is your just-in-time compiler which uses the best of two worlds, that is your interpreter and your compiler. So your compiler deals with what, your warm code. When you have something which is repeated, right, interpreter checks line by line. When there is such a case where it goes again and again in that loop, compiler comes into picture. Okay, so if I talk about JIT, there's going to be an entire session on JIT. So in nutshell, you can think of this JIT as the best of two worlds, that is the interpreter and your compiler. Okay, cool. So what else, it is installed, it can be seen everywhere in all the web browsers are installed with it. Okay, and applications can range from web development, mobile development. You can create applications like tic-tac-toe games, okay, snake games you can create in this JavaScript. It is very easy, simple, and very compatible with HTML and CSS. Okay, this is something that is related to the front end, right? Anything that you see, okay, what is, if you see a web page, right, it consists of HTML, it consists of CSS or bootstrap, right, and it consists of JavaScript, only the front end part of it. We are not talking about back end. Okay, so in if you're looking for any software engineering role, this is a way skill that is very much required. Okay, if you talk about JavaScript, right, now you don't want you might be seeing job opportunities on Vue.js, React.js, Angular. Again, the parent is still JavaScript. And if you're looking to then looking for a full stack development role, again you just have to learn Node.js, which is again the parent for that. Node.js is again JavaScript. So this JavaScript is very important. Okay, is there a complete video on JS? Yes, there's a 10-hour course, 10 hour and 30 minutes approximately course on JavaScript. This is just a prerequisite. Just go through this session and then straight away, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel and then go and find out that 10-hour course on JavaScript. This will help you to, obviously, to clear your doubts that when or how should you get started. All those things will be covered here. Then go through that course. Okay, cool. I'm not from science background. Any suggestion about me about this course? Yeah. So this is basic, guys. So you don't need to have any prerequisite knowledge of anything, right, for JavaScript. This is something, if I might be teaching what, React.js, then obviously you need to have a good solid knowledge about JavaScript. But this is the parent, and anything that after that, if you want to go for React or if you want to go for Node.js, you need to know JavaScript. So not that much to worry. Okay. Okay, cool. So now this is all about what is JavaScript. And let's talk about history. So this language, this JavaScript was developed in 10 days, okay, by Brendan Nayak. He was a developer in Netscape, okay. Now, when he developed this language in 10 days, right, there were a lot of problems, or not problems, you can say that there were a lot of mistakes, or you can say that there were some things which were not working in the traditional languages. In this, they might work, right? So we'll talk about those traditional what was that, what used to happen, and now what was happening in JavaScript. We'll talk about them, okay? So you can think of this as it was developed in 10 days. So obviously there will be some things which are not that much familiar, okay, as compared to traditional system, how you code in traditional languages. Okay, so he developed this first for the JavaScript engine, which is known as SpiderMonkey, which is still used in Mozilla Firefox. The first, its name was JavaScript, was later the name was changed to Mocha and then to LiveScript, but it still remains JavaScript due to trademark reasons. Okay, so that is the only reason why it is still known as JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript is father of web. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, so cool. So now this is the history of JavaScript. In 1995 it was developed. Okay, now what are the tools, what are the things that you should have in order to obviously code in JavaScript? So you need to have a text editor, right, and you need to have a browser. Obviously you will be having browsers. Okay, now what about text editor? So you can go for either for Visual Studio or Code, Sublime Text, or Atom. Okay, any of these three you can go for, including you can go for Notepad or Notepad plus plus. Now what is the difference? The more powerful your editor is, the more functionalities you have, like autocomplete. You don't have to write everything. indentation so that it is easily visible, it is more readable, and it can be easily seen. Okay, this thing falls under this thing, this thing falls under this thing. Okay, it can be easily seen. And highlights, obviously, which is very important to see. Okay, is this the HTML tag? Yes, this is the HTML tag. Then we'll talk about what if this what I can say that, okay, is this the head tag, is this the JavaScript tag, is this the script tag? So you can easily depict, okay, with the help of these highlights. Okay, so it depends from it varies from what uh, editor to editor. The more powerful your editor is, the more functionalities you have. Now, what about the browser? All the browsers come up with inbuilt JS engine. There is an engine which helps us to convert our code, that is in the form of JavaScript. There is an engine which helps us to convert it into machine language. Okay, they are used for executing JavaScript code and for debugging purposes as well. We'll talk about how you can debug your code on your browser. We'll talk about those things as well. Okay, this is all about tools. So you need a text editor. And okay, is this there a problem still with my uh cannot hear me, guys? Quickly confirm. Okay, just quickly confirm in the chat. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so now what else? So basically, you need a text editor and you need a browser. So any browser will work. Okay, thank you so much, Sohail. Okay, cool. Okay, cool, guys. So now what else? So let's talk about this JavaScript Hello World program and how can you write it? How and where should you write it? So the first way, obviously, now before moving into the JavaScript, uh, I'll create one skeleton, okay, in my editor. So let me go ahead and open up my editor. I will be using Sublime Text, okay. So in this, I'll be saving my file on the desktop with the extension as demo.html. Okay. So now I'll be creating one skeleton. Now this is the skeleton. What did I? I did nothing, right? Uh, Sir, yours paid goes and play platform. No, no, you can have everything that is related to JavaScript on our YouTube channel. Okay, so and it is absolutely free. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, so now what is happening? This is the skeleton, right? And this is nothing but the skeleton of our HTML. So which includes doc type, what is a version, then the HTML, which is the root element, then the head tag, which includes all the things which are not shown on your browser, then the body tag, wherever you in that whatever you write will be displayed on your browser. So let's name this as title as home. Okay, home page, something like this. And now let's save this file. So this is our HTML file. Now the first way that I'm going to talk about, and which is also important in terms of debugging your program, okay, so that is you can directly go ahead and write anything in your browser. So if I open up this sheet and I'll go ahead and or I will write Control Shift I, which opens up the console, or you can go here and inspect, okay, and go into the console. Now anything that you write over here, you can use this thing for debugging. Okay, so just type in console.log, okay, and type in hello. Okay, so this is a simple line of code, right? And it can be used for debugging as well. So this is a simple line of code which obviously prints out something on your console. And in this case, I'm printing hello. This is the JavaScript code which obviously we'll be using more and more for debugging purposes. Okay, so this is the first one of the three ways with which you can write your code. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear, guys? Is this thing clear? The first way, that is, you directly go into the console and type in hello. Okay. So now, what about the other two ways? So you can either go ahead and write Control Shift I, or just go ahead and right click on inspect and then print out this message. This is the first way. Okay. This is obviously used more for debugging purpose. The next way is that using a script tag. So script tag is used in order to write your JavaScript code. Okay. So as you can see, this is our HTML file, and in this you have the script over here, and this is your JS file. Okay, and this is your JS code basically. Obviously, now you can do a lot of things, but this is just a simple line of code that is hello world, writing a program, hello world. That's it. Okay. So now let's go ahead and quickly write it in that file that we created. So basically, in our body, we'll create I'll write a paragraph as well. So I'll write a p tag just to show that something is on the screen. I'll write lorem and then press a tab. Okay, this is just a gibberish text. Okay, I think this might be not this might not be visible. Let me just zoom it. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. So now what I will do, I will write a script tag, and in this script tag what I will do, this is all auto completion. Okay guys, so don't worry about it, just write a script then press a tab. Can you show us the output as well? Yeah, sure. Okay, so just write console dot log, that is just printing out the message as hello world. Okay, this is it. Save this file, go ahead and run this file. Mm, uh, Go into your desktop, find it. uh, yeah, here is it, demo, and double click on it, and this is it. Okay, so let me just zoom it. Mm, okay, so this is the paragraph that we wrote, right? But you might be thinking, so where is our HTML file, where is our that JavaScript file? We cannot see it since we are printing out this console dot log, that is this hello world we are printing out in the console. So what we have to do, we have to just go ahead and go in, or control shift I, you can just go write that control shift I, or just right click and go into this inspect and go into the console menu. You see hello world, any changes that you make will be reflected here. So if I go back in our in my HTML file, that is here, if I change hello world, uh, welcome. Okay, so I change, I will say then, I'll put one more message, console dot log, you are connected with JS file. Okay, so in order to check that is this file connected or not, let's be sure of that. Okay, so when I go ahead and just refresh this page, you see, but you cannot see it in on the browser, because for browser there's a different way to do it. We are just since we have just started it, so that is why I'm using console. Okay. Okay, cool. So we are done with this second approach. Okay. Now, can anyone tell me, is this the best approach? Is this the best that you can do? Or is there anything else that you can do in order to write your JavaScript code? Obviously, now writing something in console is for debugging. You can create your web applications, or you can create websites using this approach. But is this the efficient way? Is this mandatory to write the script type or simply script? Yeah, you can obviously, yeah, you can just remove this script type over here. In this case, you can just since it is in the same file, the file that the script file is in the same file, you can just remove this type. Still, it will work. Okay, it's not a mandate. Okay, Suman. So now, is this the efficient way, or is this the best possible way to write this? Can anyone tell me quickly, guys? Yes, no, maybe. No, exactly. Yes, Weber. So this is something which can be done, but we shouldn't do it, because there is one such console dot write. Okay, hello. Okay, so yes, we can. Yes, exactly. So now writing an external file, why we should write it? Because there is something that is known as separation of concerns. Okay, so there is one thing that is known as what? Separation of concerns. Separation of concerns. As the name indicates, you should have your HTML file in a different file. You should have your HTML written in a different file, CSS or Bootstrap written in a different file, and JavaScript written in a different file. Okay, create a JS file. Yes, exactly, external JS file. So why we should do it? Because obviously it is easier to read, it makes it more readable, and if any errors are there in our JavaScript file, we can directly go in that file or in this. So this is basically what is known as separation of concerns. Okay, so you should try to write this, and obviously this is much more efficient, right? So let's suppose in this case let's suppose you want to have, you might have here, you might have 100 lines of code, and you have written it in the script tag, and which is in this HTML file. Now let's suppose there is one more HTML file and you want to write the same script. You need to copy these 100 lines of code here, right? This is not an efficient way, this is a redundancy, right? So this, you should avoid those things, try not to repeat yourself. Okay, so obviously now if there is an external file, you can directly go ahead and link it with this in this way, right? You have your HTML file and you have your JS file in a separate you have a separate JS file. Obviously it makes it much more simple, easy to understand, and reusability is there, right? You can reuse this thing in a different HTML file as well. Obviously now here you might be thinking, okay, so here we have only single line of code, but obviously your JS file can have a bunch of lines, right? 100 lines of code, and you don't want to repeat it. So directly go ahead and link it. So let's go ahead and link this file, and let's remove this file. Now let's remove the script tag, obviously. Now let's try to link it. Hmm, so script, okay, you have your script over here. No, not a script. So okay, so let's first create a new file. Let's call it as, let's save this file on the same folder, so let's call it as demo.js. Done. And inside this, let's put an alert, right? You have those alert messages. Instead of writing something on our console, let's put an alert. Mm, and let's put, hi user, welcome to my website, something like this, right? You put an alert, save this, link it. So write script, and then the source of your file, the source attribute is there. So you write source, and then you give the name of the file. Okay, 1 second. uh mm, we named it as demo.js. Okay, so there's one extra this. Let's remove this, let's save this file, and let's try to run this. Okay, Mm, so you have your HTML page over here, and let's try to refresh it. Now you see what happened. It first it's saying, hi user, welcome to my website. So this is the alert. Okay, when I pressed enter, then the whole page is rendered. Okay, okay, so this is how you link your external file. Okay, external JS file. Okay, so now there are three different ways, right? So first is writing something on a console, second is writing in an internal file, or you're not creating any external file, and the third thing is that you are creating an external file. Okay, so what about comments? Obviously now these comments are very important, right? Anything, if you want to share your code to your fellow developer, or you want to share what you want to in your organization, or you're sharing your code with your friend, obviously these comments will help, right? But it is not an efficient way to write comments, and it is not advised to write these things in your company, because this says that you are writing this, this means that you're writing a dirty code. So try avoiding your try avoiding comments. But yeah, when you're sharing it with your friends, it is okay at that time, but in an organization, you never use comments, and it is not a best practice. Okay, cool. So you have two types of comments. One is the single line comments, and another is a multi-line comments. Okay. So when you're dealing with single line, you just write forward slashes like this, forward slash, two forward slashes, and then you write console.log. This won't be executed. Similarly, when you have this forward slash and asterisk sign, and then asterisk sign and the forward slash, this is known as multi-line comments, and all of these things will not be printed. Okay, so you only have the output as, can anyone tell me what will be the output over here quickly? What will be the output? So we should make all files separately, lime.js, html.js, avoid confusion, making it more presentable. Not presentable, making it more readable. And this is the convention that we should follow. Making it, we can make it presentable. We can say that we can make it more readable. It is easy for us to navigate, and it helps us in reusing those things again. Not only JS file, even if you want to apply same CSS on a different HTML file, again you can link it with that file. Okay. Satyam, there is a browser on your phone named Google. Go and search it. Okay. Okay. Hello world and bye. Yes. So the first thing that will be printed is hello world and then bye. Okay. Because all the other things are in comments. Okay. Okay, cool. So now what about variables? Okay. So variable is something that is, now we will talk about more of the concept wise, we'll get into details. Okay. So variable, right? So any location, let's suppose this is our memory and you want to address this, right? You want to address this and you want to store something on this address. Would you go ahead and write this hexadecimal number, right? For my simplicity, I'm taking 100 as the address. Obviously it will be a hexadecimal number, but you go ahead and say, okay, on this location, the 1000, whatever is the value, go and fetch it. No? You will not say that. It is not a convenient way, right? So instead what we will do, we'll use a variable name to refer to this location. Let's suppose this is an X, and now what I will do, okay, to the on this location that is 1000, X will help me to navigate, right? This X will help me, right? So variable name is nothing but the memory location where the data is stored. Now there's a syntax associated with uh, what this JavaScript. You have to write var keyword for declaring a variable. You can write either a var, you can write a let keyword, you can write a const keyword. When you're writing a const, it means that that variable or that memory location is fixed. You cannot change the reference. Okay, that is a constant. Let, there are different things associated with the let. Let's suppose var, if you talk about the scope, I will not go into detail, but let me tell you a little bit of variation between a let and a var. So when you talk about let keyword, this has a block scope, right? And var has a global scope. I will also give you one example, one interesting example, and also in terms of what interview point of view, right? So it has a global scope. Plus, let, whenever you are declaring a keyword on the same block, let and var, uh, with the help of let and var on the same block, they can be same, right? The name can be same, but in a different on the same block they will throw an error, on a different block they will work. Okay, so let me give you an example and I will show you how it works. Okay, so apart from that, how do you declare? First, let's cover how you declare. So you have this keyword var, and then the name of the variable. Let's suppose name is the name of the variable, and then the value. For example, this is a string, so I write faza. Okay, so this is how you define a define a variable. Similarly, you can have var roll number 27. Again, this will be an integer. Okay, okay, so now, is this only thing? Is this the thing that is associated to variables? No, there's a naming convention that you should follow, and you should follow it religiously. Okay, so always your variable name should start with a letter, any letter from A to Z, or a dollar sign or underscore. Okay, so the first character should be among these. After that, it can be there can be digits, there can be numbers, any combination is possible, but the first letter should be this. And also, variable name cannot be same as your keywords, right? What are the keywords? Those are reserved for special purpose. For example, var is a keyword, let is a keyword, const is a keyword. They have a special purpose, and you should not use those as your variable names. Okay, and then one more thing, that these variable names are case sensitive. So let's suppose if Satyam has defined a variable like this, apple, and now he's accessing this in the code, he's accessing this like this. So will this work? Will this work? No, it will not work, because these are two different variables. Okay, so naming convention is important and you should follow it religiously. So now, what about the valid variable names? Is this valid? Yes. Is this valid? Yes. Underscore is a valid variable name, right? Underscore, it can, if a variable is starting with an underscore, it is valid. Similarly, dollar, it is valid. Now these are invalid. One, two, three, invalid, right? What about this at the rate email? Invalid, right? What about this asterisk, right? Roll number. What about this? Again, invalid variable names. Okay, let's move ahead. Now, before moving to data types, let me go ahead and show you this thing in the browser. Okay, so I'll go into my Google Chrome. Okay, I will not use an external file. Uh, in this case, I will be using the browser itself. Okay, where is my browser? Here. Okay, cool. So now, I hope this is visible to you guys. I'll try to zoom it a little bit more. Okay. So now let's create variables. Okay. So I will write var with the help of this var keyword. I am able to define variables. So I will write var name and let's name it as what Satyam. Okay. Sorry, Satyam. Okay. So now I have defined this variable. So this is how you define a variable. Now, if I go ahead and uh, I want to check the content, right? I will write name and press an enter. It will give me Satyam. Okay. So this is how you declare your variables. Let me just cross it out. Okay. And if I'm defining this variable like this, variable plus addition is equal to 10. Is this a valid variable name, guys? Will it work? Will this work, guys? Quickly confirm in the chat. Yes or no. Will this work? One second. Yeah. Will this work? If I'm writing this thing where add equal to 10, will this work? Is this a valid variable name? Quickly, guys, in the chat, I am monitoring your chat. No, absolutely not. Correct. So it says unexpected token, that is this token, this plus sign, is an invalid variable name, right? So we know the naming convention. Okay, similarly you can follow along. Okay, so now what else is there? So now let me just go ahead and okay, cool. So now let's talk about data types. Okay, so there are few data types, and now you might be thinking, okay, no one asked in the chat also. So you might be thinking, sir, why we are defining everything with the help of this var? In traditional languages, right? Yeah, yes, exactly, Sai. Right? Now you might be thinking why this is starting with why these everything when I define a string, it is starting with var. When I'm defining number, that is 23, when I'm trying to store that 23, again it is starting with a var. I'm not writing that keyword like in traditional languages, right? Int x equal to 10, string name equal to something, right? I'm not writing those keywords, right? Because this is known as this is how JavaScript is different from your Java. Okay, JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, right? You can see over here you don't have to specify, right? You don't have to specify the type explicitly here. You don't have to specify that this is a number. Depending upon this, it will react and it will say this is a number. Depending upon this, whatever you are storing, this will react and it will say that this is a string, depending upon the value. Okay, so this is known as dynamically typed language, wherein you don't have to specify explicitly, okay, this is an integer, this is a float, this is a string. Okay, so this is one of the differences between Java and JavaScript. Obviously, there are many more differences, right? We'll talk about them one by one in this session as well. Okay. So there are 5 primitive data types in JavaScript. One is number, string, boolean, undefined. That means the value has not been defined yet. And then the null when you are trying to store null. So what is DOM? So Deepak, DOM is nothing but document object, or you can say document object model, right? So everything, whenever you're trying to deal with this HTML page, right? We have this HTML page, right? Everything, this head, HTML body, paragraph tags, script tags, everything is in the form of nodes. That means you can select these and manipulate these. Okay, so similarly, when you're trying to select something, let's suppose I selected this body tag, and now what I did with the help of these, with the help of which is only possible with the help of DOM. Okay, so when I select this and I want to, whenever I'm clicking on this paragraph, I want it to disappear. Okay, I want it to disappear. So that is possible with the help of DOM. So that we can do with the help of click events, right? So that is for selecting, for manipulating, for adding styles. You can do all of those things, yeah, with the help of document object model. Okay, that is DOM. Okay, cool. So now let's talk about these in much more in detail. Okay, so let's suppose I'm defining one variable as n, uh, and I'm putting a value 10 in it. Okay, now I'm also defining another variable nn, and I'm storing string in it, and let's suppose breathe. Okay, okay, done. Now let's check the type of n and type of nn. Okay, so we'll have one operator or function which is type of, and if I pass in n in it, it says number. Rightly so, right? What about the type of nn? String, right? Correct. Because now you can see that, okay, it's dynamically typed language, so this will happen. But what if I did this thing? I did n is equivalent to n plus nn. Now will this work? Will this work, guys? I'm doing n is equivalent to n plus nn. That means obviously I am doing 10 plus breathe. Will this happen? Is this possible in traditional languages? Quickly, breathe. Just right click and rename it. Sir, JavaScript software is different from Java software. No, no, there is no such thing as JavaScript software. You run your programs. There is a text editor that you need, and that's it. So JavaScript is a language, right? It is, and Java is also a language, and the softwares wherein you can run your programs is something like in Java you can use it IntelliJ. Similarly, for running your programs, you can also use those Visual Studio. Okay, you can use those editors as well. Okay, for running them, you have to use Java. You have to use browsers. Okay, but there is a way with the help of Node.js you can run it anywhere. Okay, so that, let's not go into that. Okay, so when I press enter, it will work. Okay, it says 10 breathe. That is the beauty of JavaScript. Now what it did, it typecasted, right? That is known as type coercion. Not typecasting. In the traditional language it is known as typecasting. Here it is known as type coercion. Okay, so it converted the type that was earlier number, which we saw earlier, the type of n was number. It converted it into string. Now if I go ahead and check the type of n, which was earlier number, now it is a string. Is this thing clear, guys? Is this thing clear? Okay, so this is known as type coercion. Okay, so now similarly we have undefined. That means where we have a ppp variable which has not been defined. So if I go ahead and check the content of p, it says undefined. Okay, so don't worry about the undefined that we had earlier, right? This is obviously the value that is inside this p, but the earlier, this which I have highlighted, this is something that we deal when we talk about functions. When you don't return anything, that at that time you always one thing is returned, that is undefined. Okay, when you don't return, when you return, then this undefined won't be there. Like in here, this type of returned string, so that is why you don't have undefined over here. In this also you are printing, and this again are no undefined, so again no undefined. So whenever you are not returning anything, it will always return undefined. Okay, so that is something that we talk about in functions. Okay, cool. So now let's get going, and this is all about data types. Okay, so now let's talk about that type cohesion. When we are comparing two values, right, of different types, one type is forced to change into another. As we have seen earlier, that NN was forced type of means to check, you want to say, you want to check what is the type of this variable. So for that you have this function, that is inbuilt function, okay, that is known as type of, okay. You can use that function in order to check that, okay. So similarly, what is happening over here, the type cohesion happened when we changed n was changed into string, right? That means one variable was forced to change into another, type was changed into another. Now can you stop this? Yes, with the help of three equal to signs, okay. This is to stop type cohesion. You can use this to stop type cohesion, okay. Now we'll talk about this again. Let me just quickly show you well. Okay, so now let's go into this and let's create an external. We have this external file in place, so we'll just write console uh, dot log. Okay, and write hello. Okay, or might you might say connected. Okay, mm, connected. Okay, just to check if the connection is there or not. Okay, so now let's define variables. Sorry for the noise. So let's define variables. Let's name a equal to 10, and let's name another variable b equal to a string 10. Okay. Now when I will do what I will do, if I check if a is equivalent to b, uh, this is simple if else statement, and it will remain the same in all the uh, programming, almost same. Okay. So now what you will write equal, else you will write console.log not equal. What will happen in this case, guys? What will be the output? Let's save this file. Okay, let's save this file. One second. Let's save this file. What will be the output, guys? Is this connected? Yes, it is connected. What will be the output in this case? Quickly. What will be the output? Will it be equal or not equal? Quickly, guys, in the chat. Satyam says, sir, what is this three equal mean? This means that you are stopping type cohesion. I will also tell you, just wait, I'll tell you what else does this mean, okay? First, let's answer this question. What does this mean? This A equal to B, right, we are doing, and then we are trying to print either equal to sign, or either we are printing equal or we are printing not equal. What will be the output? Not equal to, okay, Kritika says not equal to, okay, not equal, Nasir says equal, Satyam says not equal. So let's run this, okay. So we go on to our console and let's refresh this. Says this thing. Okay, we have refreshed it. Control Shift I. This is our file connected and it says equal. Why so? Because when you are using this equal to sign, right? When you are using this equal to sign, it allows type coercion. Okay, it allows type coercion. That means whether this is a string, right? Obviously, this B is a string and this A is a string. It will not check for what the type, it will simply check for the data, and the data is same in both A as well as in B. Now if I go ahead and just simply write a third equal to sign, okay, equal to equal to equal to, in this case, yes, there is a course on our academy as well as on our YouTube channel, Varun, okay. You just have to register and go. Okay, so now when I save this file, and in this case what will happen when I run this file, it will say not equal to, because now it will be checking for both the data part, that is 10 and 10, which is same, as well as the data type, which is one is string and one is what, a number. Is this thing clear? Quickly, quickly, guys, just type in a yes or no. Do you want me to repeat anything? Quickly, guys. Is this thing clear? Okay. Okay, okay. Great, great, great. Now let's go ahead and see what else is there. Okay. So this is known as type coercion. Now, the two most important properties of JavaScript. One is dynamically typed, right? We talked about this. What is a dynamically typed language, right? You don't have to specify the type. Okay, you don't have to specify the type explicitly that you will be hey, this is an integer, this is a float. You don't have to specify those things. Okay, but if you're specifying obviously now this thing will we will cover those things later when we talk about where, let, and I will also show the scope, right? I forgot to show the scope. I will also show the scope. Okay, so this is the dynamically typed language. Now what else? JavaScript is a weakly typed language. What does this mean? That type coercion is allowed. That means it is weakly typed, what you saw earlier, right? In the traditional system, right, traditional programming language, this thing does not happen, right? What does not happen? You are converting your string into number, or string is converted into number. That does not happen in other programming languages. So this is what is known as weakly typed language. That means you are allowing type coercion. Okay, simple as that. If you're not allowing, then it's not a weakly type language. But obviously now, since we are allowing it, we should have a mechanism to stop it. For that we will use these three equal to sign. Okay, done. Perfect. Now let's before going into operators, let's talk about a little bit about the scope which we talked about earlier, right? So now let's suppose we have this file, right, the JS file. Now what we will do, we will create one variable which is named as scope, right? And let's suppose its value is 0, and then a simple for loop, right? And then my scope is less than 10, and scope plus plus, a simple for loop, guys. And what I'm doing, I'm printing out console dot log, uh, and I'm printing scope itself, right? I'm printing 0, 1, 2, and so on to 10. Okay, done. But now I want to access this. I want to print the last, no, what is the last value of this scope, right? Is this possible? Is this possible? Can I do this thing? Scope is defined inside this, right? Uh, mm, uh, okay, okay, cool. So now, is this possible? Will it throw an error or will it work absolutely fine? So I'm defining a variable scope, and I'm printing out all the variables, and then I'm printing again scope at the end. Will it work? Let's run this and let's see. Okay, so we'll go back into our browser and let's run this thing. So this is working absolutely fine. So we started from 0 to less than 10. That means 0 to 9 elements will be printed. And then at the end, we are printing the scope. That means the value of scope at that time is 10, because that is how it will exhaust this for loop, right? So, but is this something which is allowed in a traditional programming language? Yes or no? Is this thing allowed in other programming language? Can you do it this thing in Java or C or C++? No, right? So that is what I meant earlier when I said that this thing was developed in 10 days, and there were a lot of what you say, not mistakes, but yeah, there was something which was not familiar to developers, right? Which were not familiar to developers. That was usually what happened, right? The traditional programming languages, that thing used to happen. That thing was not present, so it kept on modifying itself. Okay, now the scope of this variable scope is global when you use this keyword where. Now, if I want to do this thing in a traditional way, I don't want this scope, right? Which is obviously, which all we all know that this thing was not possible, right? So there came this keyword that is known as let. Now, if I run this thing, simply I run this, I just changed where to let. When I run this thing, It will say that scope is not defined, which is rightly so. And it says that in demo.js line number 7. If you go in this, you see line number 7 is this. We cannot access this thing. Why? Because let is a block scope variable. Okay. We can implement for loop in languages as well. Yes, you can, right? So did you get this point, right? Why this let came into existence? Why this let came into existence if where was already there? Although there are some other things that is known as mm, what you say, hoisting is there, that is also there, but we will not get into that. Okay, okay, cool. So to connect with, okay. So now let's get going. Okay. So now this thing is clear, right? So now operators. All the programming languages have these operators, right? There are two major operators when you talk about unary operators, right? So we have increment, we have decrement. Now, uh, we have something that is known as postfix or post increment or prefix, that is pre increment, right? So now there are a lot of questions that are asked on this, right? So now let's try to understand what is prefix and postfix. When you talk about postfix, this means first assign the value, first assign, then increment, post, do the increment at the end, post it. Pre Prefix or postfix me prefix or post pre increment means first assign, not first assign, first increment. We are talking about increment, right? First increment the value and then assign. Right, is this thing clear? Now let's do a fun little exercise on this. Similarly, you have decrement, you can either post the decrement or you can do the pre-decrement. Okay, so now let's go into our console and let's try to understand how this works. Okay, let's remove this. Let's create a variable a and let's put a 10 in it. Okay, so first let's just simply print it out. Okay, what is the value of this a? Okay, then what I did console.log a plus plus, that is post increment. Then what I did console.log pre increment. And then finally, what I again did a post increment and I will paste this thing. 1 second. I will do another post increment and then I will just simply paste this thing. What will be the output, guys? Quickly. Just write it in single line, 10, whatever you think. Okay. Quickly, guys. So I'm right now I'm not confusing you a lot. I only used increment operators. I can also use decrement. So in the same way, right? Pre or post. Quickly, what will be the output? Quickly, guys. Sir, why the output wasn't printed twice? Elva, which output are you talking about? In the earlier case, uh, what was this thing you are talking about? Why was the output? So here it was, I think it was clear, right? We were just printing out. Okay. Okay, Gayatri says 10, 12, 12. Gayatri, there are 5 print statements, so there should be 5 values, right? 5 print statements are there. So now let's try to understand. Okay, okay, cool. So now let's try to understand how it works. So obviously here we are just doing 10. So here 10 will be printed because we are just printing out, right? Now here what is happening, we are doing a post increment. That means first assign, then increment. So while assigning, it will again assign 10 to it, right? So it will be 10. Now what will happen? Now it will do the increment, which was the step earlier, whatever the increment happened, now it will do that increment. plus it will do a pre-increment on its own. That means there will be a increment of 2, right? So the output here will be 12. Now here again this is a post increment, so again the value will be 12, and here what will be the value? It will be 13. Is this thing clear? Is this okay? Arushi is correct. Correct, Arushi. Yes, correct, Gayatri. Yes, perfect. So now let's run this. Go into the console, and here is our browser. Let's refresh it. So you see 10, 10, 12, 12, 13. Utkarsh, did you get it? Why your output is wrong? Okay, you are not doing that increment at the end. In the next step, that increment will happen. Okay, is this thing clear, guys? What is this output? Similarly, you can do the decrement as well. Okay, is this thing clear, guys? Yes, 10, 10, 12, 12, 13. Okay, all right, guys. So I will not rush into other things. Let's try to conclude. Okay, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. Yes, correct, correct. Yes, 10, 10, 12, 12. Not Utkarsh, 11, no. No, okay, okay, great, great. Okay. All right, guys. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you are staying inside and following the guidelines, and I hope you are safe. I'll see you in the next session, and do take care of yourself, guys, and do follow the precautions, and stay safe. Okay, guys. So thank you so much. I didn't get can you tell me? Okay, so basically what is happening over here, guys? So what is happening in this statement? So we are first incrementing it, right? So what happens? Let me just put it over here. Okay, so basically I did this thing. I printed A, then I printed A plus plus, then I printed plus plus A, right? And then what I did, I printed A plus plus, and then I printed A. So here it was simple, it was 10, right? In the next step, what happens? It was a post increment. What I did, so what post increment says, first assign the value, then increment it. So first assign the value. So it was assigned and that was printed. But this A was incremented after that. Now that was not printed yet, right? In the next step, what happened? It was plus plus A. Let me just erase this. It was plus plus A. That means incremented first. So it was incremented to 12 and then assigned. So the value was printed is 12. Similarly, what happened here? Here it was first assigned the value. So what is the value? 12. And in the next step, it said after that, once it is assigned, increment it. So it incremented it. So the value was 12 over here, and in the next step the value is 13. So this is the output. Okay, all right, all right. Okay, guys, so thank you so much, guys. Can we talk about type cohesion more? And shows the sheet? Okay, okay, sure. So this is the type cohesion, guys. So it means that whatever is happening. So let's suppose you are doing that if one. That means while what happens in this case? So you might have seen in other programming language we do while one, right? Which means this one is true. So that is nothing but your type cohesion, right? So here if I do if one, that means this is true. So that means this was earlier a number. It was converted into a boolean. Again, a type cohesion. So similarly, object is, this is used to check whether two objects are equal or not. Okay, sir, can you please tell us what is the main difference between Java and JavaScript? That is what I was saying, right? So if you see the properties, right? So Java is not dynamically typed language. Java is not a weakly typed language. There is no such thing as type cohesion. Okay, so Varun will let you know. So in the meanwhile, if it is delayed, so you guys can either go on our academy, Great Learning Academy, or you can go on our YouTube channel. There is a course, full hour course that is on JavaScript. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you in the next. Take care. Bye.